Yo, what's good everyone? My name is Jett. Welcome back to an episode of Inside the Lines. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Let's not waste any time and jump right into it with our first story revolving around JD Motorsports. They got into some hot water this weekend over a topic I never thought I would speak about on this show. Now, the past weekend at New Hampshire, majority of the weekend had a frog swallower of a rainstorm most of the time. I mean, all the activities, the pre-festivities in terms of practice and qualifying for both Xfinity and Cup Series were basically dashed, leaving only the Xfinity and Cup races to go. Xfinity had the first part of it, rain, run under the wet condition tires, but part of the Cup race had to be delayed due to rain. So a lot of it was involving rain. And because of that, JD Motorsports and their Twitter account decided to have some fun by posting this picture. Now, I'm not going to explain what this picture means, but if you haven't seen this, then you probably just have never been on social media. And if you have seen this, then you probably understand how this picture, where this video is referencing to, has been everywhere on social media. Now, the reaction from it was really funny. A lot of people thought it was a funny, little joke, playing about how raining affecting majority of the weekend, and considering the picture from, what it's being referenced to, it was a nice correlation, to make light of the situation, to take something that is from the social media world, and it's a very, let's just say, edgy joke, and use it in a racing context. I thought it was all funny. But then we come later out to find out that the tweet was taken down, and the person that posted it by saying, well, boys, I went out on top. That his tweet that he posted on the JD socials was removed because it didn't, quote, meet his beliefs, and had to delete it. Now, the owner himself, Johnny Davis, further went on to explain by saying in a long Twitter post, quote, here at JD Motorsports, our social platforms have to represent and support our partners. Our Doorman's 19's post did garner a lot of attention. As a tire guy who had privileges to post only racing content, this did not meet what Robert was allowed to post. Not that I have to defend my actions to the NASCAR community, but how does a parent explain this subject matter to their child who doesn't understand? I had to react to Robert Doorman's post according to our standards and beliefs. Robert Doorman was not fired from his job as a tire specialist at JD Motorsports. His privilege of posting, quote, racing only content was revoked. We appreciate a good, clean joke or meme as much as anyone, but there are boundaries. Thank you for being a true fan of JD Motorsports. Clearly, you do not appreciate a good, clean joke or meme, because that's basically what it was. Now, I have a real issue with this. First off, number one, I think this is a major overreaction. If you don't like the tweet, fine, take it down, even though, live a little bit. I thought it was a funny, cute, or should say cute, but it's a funny, clean joke. It was not nothing egregious. It wasn't totally out of line. It was a funny little joke. I just have an issue with him throwing that little part in there. Not saying nothing wrong with that. Obviously, if the parent, you want to protect your child from the things you see on the internet, I get that. Just in this situation that has nothing to do with disabilities or special needs or anything like that, you throwing that in there is kind of like, why are you trying to use it as a front? If you don't like it, just say you don't like it. Why you got to use your kid as a front to kind of defend your actions? Another part that kind of threw me off is when he mentioned in the post is that, how does a parent explain this matter to their child who doesn't understand? Okay, you have to understand the context that we're talking about here. We're using this picture, right? This picture doesn't tell you. This picture doesn't tell you the full story. It's literally for those who get it, get it. Okay? If you have no idea for where that picture or what that video is from, then don't explain it. You don't have to explain it. Honestly, if you really want to explain it, you could use a PG route. Oh, it's raining and the girl's spitting, referencing rain. Which, let's be honest, I mean, saying the girl's spitting, technically, you're not lying. But, I mean, you're not lying technically, but it's still you still keep it PG, kind of. I just feel like this was a waste of an opportunity just to kind of, be funny on social media. I mean, you look at other accounts like RFK, Colleague Racing, just as examples on NASCAR socials, and especially look at Formula One socials, McLaren, Red Bull, they have all been able to find a way to connect things that are happening in the social media world that's trending and make it racing related. And that's what Doorman did here with this post. He took something that was trending on social media and found a way to make it racing related somewhat. I felt like what he did was marketing, or at the very least, social media content 101. Find a way to connect the two things, one that's popular and one that's within your circle. Combine the two, boom. trending tweet. I mean, it's marketing, social media 101. I get it on one side, you want to protect your child from things you see on social media. I get that. But I would argue that there is about an 80% chance that your kids know everything about the internet more than what the parents do. Especially that meme, that doorman reference. That has been all over. Hell, Liv Morgan on WWE Raw has been using this. So I'm just saying there's a good chance that the children, or at least the kids, know more about this more than the parents do. I'm just saying. I feel like this is just an overreaction. I don't think you need to use your child as a front. It was a light-hearted joke in the sense that it was literally, if you get it, you get it. Now, if let's say Doorman used the full video context that explains what the girl is talking about, then fine, yeah, completely understandable. You want to take it down. But it's an innuendo in the sense of if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. If you want the post taken down, have it taken down. But to then have a full-on statement is just making something out of nothing. Next up, we're going to talk about is NASCAR in Chicago. Now, the second annual Chicago Street Race that's coming up in about 2 weeks' time is having much more optimism, and the emotions are a lot happier this year than it was last year. Obviously, when it was first announced of NASCAR going to Chicago, there were a lot of skepticism, and overall, it was a negatively perceived event, especially to the people in Chicago. And then, of course, when the actual event happened that weekend, for some reason, Mother Nature decided, you know what, screw y'all, and just decided the mother of all rain to just pour the entire weekend for NASCAR in Chicago. But still, somehow, they were able to get the race in and had a ratings hit. And by the end of it, what seemed to be at the beginning of it seemed to be a PR nightmare for NASCAR. By the end of it, many people thought, wow, not only was it a great race, a lot of people in Chicago, at least if you look at on the Chicago Reddit page, there was a lot of people on there. A lot of people were praising the event, how it showcased the city in a very positive light. And they were much more in favor of the NASCAR event as a whole. Now with year one in the books and coming back for year two, obviously the hope for is that we get some good weather on our side this time. Optimism is much higher now for how the racing will be perceived, but also how Chicagoans will feel about the event. The new mayor of Chicago was able to work out a new deal that had not only NASCAR pay more money into the city of Chicago, but also did it so that the shutdowns for the city to be able to build the racetrack is, not only has less amount of days, did in a way that is less noticeable to the people of Chicago. And it has been noticed. A lot of the people in the city of Chicago, at least according to the Chicago Tribune, have said that they have barely noticed the shutdowns and construction areas of the racetrack while they're building up for July 4th weekend. It also seems as though that the city of Chicago is more accepted in general. Not only are the local businesses like the restaurants and things like that, but also the local like museums and parks or the places that around the city of Chicago, around Grant Park, are now more accepted. Hell, NASCAR are even partnering with some of the communities in Chicago prepping for this race. It's kind of funny. It's literally the exact opposite of, let's say, Formula One in Las Vegas, where it seems as though that everyone hates F1 in Vegas. Like all the businesses and all that do not like F1 in Vegas unless you're a casino company. Whereas when NASCAR, it seems as though that more of the community are more in favor of the race. Not completely, but still more in favor this year compared to last year. The Harris poll even did a study about it that said 4 in 10 Chicagoans think the city hosting events like the NASCAR street race is good for the city. That said, about a third, or 32%, expect to be inconvenienced by the NASCAR street race, and fewer think the event being hosted in Chicago is good for Chicago residents, and 1 in 5, or 21% of city residents, are interested in attending the race. Now, this was conducted in among 1,000 Chicagoland adults ages 18 plus from June 7th to the 14th. So pretty small sample pool, but still nonetheless, it is, in my eyes, much more positive than compared to the emotions and feelings around the event last year. Because last year, people had no idea. Obviously, it's a shitty city of Chicago. They have no idea about NASCAR. So they were asking questions like, are cars going to hit the city buildings and have the buildings topple down? There were actual questions, if you look at some of the articles that fans were asking based on last year's race. So this time around, much more positive. The fans, or I should say the residents, they know more about the race, about what to expect. So hopefully year two is much more positive. That being said, a spokesperson for the city of Chicago said that they will make a final decision on the third year and beyond in the future. They said this in an email earlier this week. So it's still not confirmed on whether or not NASCAR will be back in Chicago in year 3. If that's the case, let's play hypothetical here. Let's say NASCAR does not come back to Chicago. I would like for it to. I like the racetrack and I think it's a great city to have in Chicago. But if, let's say, for 2025, NASCAR does not come back to Chicago, what happens next? Well, if that's the case, you look at Chicagoland Speedway. That's definitely a route that NASCAR will be willing to take a look at, even though they have Madison, Illinois with Gateway there, probably going to be in the playoffs for 2025. You most definitely have to take a look at Chicagoland. Even though it hasn't held a racer since 2019, you look at the photos in recent years there, the recent couple months there, it still looks pretty good. And it still looks like with a few maintenance, updates, they can host a cup race like that. So if, let's say, NASCAR does not come back to the city of Chicago, you look at Chicagoland Speedway as a pretty good replacement option there. What about NASCAR in the future of street races? Well, clearly this proves that NASCAR can race on street courses. You look at maybe some potential options. Back a couple years ago, the city of Pittsburgh said that they would love to have NASCAR host a street race in their city. That's just one of an example there that is proven in an article of the city of Pittsburgh, at least the officials saying that they would welcome NASCAR in their city. Who knows? Maybe you could look at other options. Maybe you look at maybe in Austin, like the city of Austin or the city of Houston. Maybe you look at Florida. I don't know. I don't know what options NASCAR would look at if they were not to return to Chicago. I definitely think they would like to continue street racing, have that be that once a year change of feeling when it comes to NASCAR racing past 2024. So I know for sure they would like to continue that. The fact of the matter is that if the mayor decides to not extend their deal for a third year, where would they go? But I think it will all depend on how much revenue and but it all depend on how it does in year 2. If it's successful, if the weather is good, people show up with the concerts, lots of money, revenue coming in, tourism and hotels. If that's all good and all, I see no reason as to why NASCAR and the city of Chicago can't continue on past 2024. But it will be interesting to see what direction NASCAR takes with street racing if Chicago is no longer an option.
You can't tell me now about time. Do you know how many lines I done put down, vibes I done sent out? But we in here to dig. I'll up the market till they come red carpet the kids. Success still the target. Soon I'll be crossing that bridge, but can't bring everybody with me. Family only. I got some people think I owe a favor, barely know me. That's why my focus on the road. It's all I know. I see them sticking close to play the wall.